Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson had a few choice words for Donald Trump, who she referred to as the elephant in the room, on a Law Day presentation speech of hers in Puerto Rico before a room full of lawyers and judges. And the youngest shall lead us. Ketanji Brown Jackson is my vote to be the next Chief Justice of the United States when the Democrats inevitably take back the White House. And she had a number of choice words to Donald Trump without mentioning him by name, but more importantly, talking about the necessity that we in America defend our judges and our rule of law and don't allow anything to compromise their independent, their judicial independence and their integrity. She addressed, and she doesn't do this very often, to be fair. She's not very public. You see her very outspoken, as she should be, during oral argument. And she is one of the intellectual leaders on that court, even though she's only been on the bench for just a couple of years. But she took this opportunity to take on Donald Trump and to defend the Constitution and the rule of law the way only a sitting United States Court Justice can do. And I want to cover it right here on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. Everyone knows, I'm going to say it out loud, I'm a big fan of Ketanji Brown Jackson and everything that she stands for. I've always been impressed by her intellectual acumen as a leader on the United States Supreme Court. When she opens her mouth, everybody else's mouth should shut. And listen closely to how she leads the advocate before her at the Supreme Court through her thought process and reaches her own independent conclusion, often doing so in a way that just shows such intellectual gift that it's breathtaking. Let's get back to Ketanji Brown Jackson and what she said in one of these rare speeches that she actually gives. And I think it is ironic here on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. But nothing should surprise us that on the very day of Law Day, where we celebrate the rule of law, where we as the foot soldiers defend the Constitution, where lawyers and judges and law students and those that believe in the rule of law and the proper place of law in our public space went into the streets and we protested and we got together in conferences, and as lawyers do, and in boardrooms and in classrooms and talked about the rule of law established, the rule of law day established in 1958 by President Eisenhower. On that very day, Donald Trump was at the University of Alabama bashing judges. There were no comments made by anyone in the Department of Justice for Donald Trump celebrating Law Day and the rule of law. Not Pam Bondi, not Todd Blanche, not Emil Bove, not Harmeet Dillon, not the Solicitor General of the United States, John Sauer. Nowhere, no one acknowledged it. And Donald Trump instead went into the University of Alabama and did his normal judge bashing thing. Here's a clip.
But they have to let us do the job that the voters want us to do. Judges are interfering supposedly based on due process, but how can you give due process to people who came into our country illegally? They want to give them due process. I don't know.
Okay. You got that going on. Same time, Ketanji Brown Jackson is in Puerto Rico for a conference, and here's what she had to say, as reported by people that were in the room. Across the nation, judges are facing increased threats of not only physical violence, but also professional retaliation just for doing our jobs. And the attacks are not random, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Justice Jackson continued. They seem designed to intimidate those of us who serve in this critical capacity. Although she didn't mention Trump by name not once. She did say, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. And I don't think she was just referring to the symbol of the Republican Party. Justice Jackson then went on to talk about, with that backdrop, she said in that ballroom of lawyers and judges, it sometimes takes raw courage, she said, to remain steadfast in doing what the law requires. This against the backdrop of Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin, Milwaukee Circuit Court, being arrested on federal charges by Donald Trump. All she wanted to do and all she was doing was defending the rule of law in her courtroom, in her criminal courtroom. And she's now facing, potential time in jail for being a judge doing justice. And I'm sure that went into the mind of Ketanji Brown Jackson when she wrote this eloquent speech. She also said, a society in which judges are routinely made to fear for their own safety or their livelihood due to their decisions is one that has substantially departed from the norms of behavior that govern a democratic system. This was the First Circuit Judicial Conference, which sits over places like Puerto Rico and Maine. Attacks on judicial independence is how countries that are not free, not fair, and not the rule of law oriented operate. She then took notice that this was the day she gave the speech yesterday was Law Day or National Law Day, with demonstrations of lawyers protesting Trump's attack on their legal profession, such as me. Because of that occasion, she said she was taking a personal privilege point to reaffirm the significance of judicial independence and to denounce attacks on judges based on their ruling. When she was done, there was a standing ovation from everybody in that room. It's the second time this week we've seen a standing ovation, all as a rebuke to the Trump administration. I just reported the other day that when the longest serving Deputy Solicitor General, after his 160th oral argument at the United States Supreme Court, crossing multiple administrations, he's about as nonpartisan a citizen Solicitor General as you're going to find. When he decided he was not going to do what Pam Bondi and Donald Trump told him to do and violate his independent ethics and his candor to the tribunal, John Roberts, the Chief Justice, led a standing ovation of all 9 Supreme Court justices, including Ketanji Brown Jackson, where they were smiling and beaming to send this lawyer off. And he said at the beginning to Roberts, we value you because of your integrity, because of your candor to the tribunal. We know what he was talking about. That's the second standing ovation. Now, Ketanji Brown Jackson, I want to give you an idea for those that haven't seen her in action. I want to show you a clip of Ketanji Brown Jackson so that you understand, since we don't have a clip of the actual speech in Puerto Rico. Here's a clip.
In your dissent, you wrote that the court declared for the first time in history that the most powerful official in the United States can, under circumstances yet to be fully determined, become a law unto himself. It sounds like a warning.
Well, I mean, that was my view of what the court determined.
You were concerned about broad immunity.
I was concerned about a system that appeared to provide immunity for one individual under one set of circumstances, when we have a criminal justice system that had ordinarily treated everyone the same.
Are you prepared that this election could end up before the Supreme Court?
As prepared as anyone can be. Let me ask you, are you prepared for all of the news cycles that you're getting as a result of this election?
No.
No, exactly. I mean, I think there are legal issues that arise out of the political process. And so the Supreme Court has to be prepared to respond if that should be necessary.
It is important that Supreme Court justices who occupy that Article 3 branch of government speak up and speak out about the rule of law, about Donald Trump's assault on it, about the need for all of us, regardless of occupation, profession, or no occupation and no profession, to defend the Constitution in our democracy, because you can't have fair and free. You can't have a constitutional republic, which is what we are, unless you have a defense of the Constitution and those people that labor as civil servants to do that job. Public defenders, federal public defenders, state court judges, federal court judges, magistrate judges, administrative law judges. It's a reasonably thankless job, to be fair. Sure, they have a lot of power if that's what they're in it for, but they're on the right side of the angels, I'll put it that way. And you need people like Ketanji Brown Jackson. And it's interesting. The person I think is going to be the next Chief Justice of the United States, and talk about blowing the minds of those that are against diversity, equity, and inclusion, or seeing anybody that's black and brown in positions of power. Wait till Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House at the same time Ketanji Brown Jackson becomes Chief Justice of the United States. Yeah. And they both deserve those positions. I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is effectively already the Speaker of the House, as far as I can see. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, important one to watch. She is the intellectual soul of the moderate and left wing of the United States Supreme Court. She's the one that often has to be the counterweight against the onslaught from Alito, Thomas, Kavanaugh, and Gorsuch. She's the one that has to try to appeal to Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett. The key to the next 2 years that we're going to be watching for, or the next 3 years that we're going to be watching for the Trump administration, the key is whether Ketanji Brown Jackson can successfully lobby Amy Coney Barrett to come over to their side more than the other side and try to get John Roberts to do the same thing. And that's where our Constitution will live or die, in these 5-4 decisions led by the power and the heft of Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sonia Sotomayor, and Kagan. And so I'm proud, coming off of Law Day and the high, about all my friends and lawyers and judges and myself and the people here on Legal AF and on MeidasTouch joining together to support those protests. I'm proud of Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I'm proud to be in a United States where Joe Biden put a Ketanji Brown Jackson into her role, and just watch her blossom and grow in that role. The youngest shall lead us. I'm Michael Popok. You're on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button for Meidas. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel, where we just rolled the odometer on 600,000 subscribers since the election. And then we got a brand new Substack, Legal AF Substack, right at the intersection of law and politics, that I curate 5 or 6 amazing pieces every day, including, what else? Morning AF by me every morning. So until my next contribution of all things Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.